Hi, I'm Greg Hunter. This is the weekly news wrap-up for Friday, February 21st, 2014. Top story, Ukraine. Violent uprisings and protests. They've been going on for a while, and at one point it looked like they had a truce, a ceasefire, and then, whoops, no, they didn't. It's been reported more than 70 people have died. They even had 67 police captured by protesters. It doesn't look like it's going to end anytime soon. Meanwhile, the EU and Canada have put sanctions on Ukrainian officials. The United States is also warning Ukrainian officials about the harshness of the crackdown. Meanwhile, it's been reported that the United States has spent money, about $5 billion, that's what the reports are, to help fund the uprising in the Ukraine. Of course, the big deal is that Ukraine does not want to be folded back into the Soviet Union, back into Russia. It would rather be part of the EU. It really doesn't want to be under the hand of Putin and the Russians. But it is an ugly, ugly protest, and it's getting uglier by the day, and there's no end in sight. Meanwhile, the Iranian nuclear talks, the talks to curtail the Iranian nuclear program, they just wrapped up in Vienna, and the big headline out of there was that they've developed a framework and a timetable, and they've gotten off to a good start. This has been going on for years, and they're just developing a framework and a timetable. It seems to me not much negotiation is going on. On one side, you have the West and the United States saying, oh, this is historic, this is fabulous, this is really great. On the other side, you have multiple Iranian officials saying, including the foreign minister that said that the Iranian foreign minister that said the United States is overrepresenting what Iran is going to do. And that, the President, Rouhani, saying that we're not going to stop enriching uranium. And now the Iranian Supreme Leader, the Ayatollah Khomeini, says that these talks are going to, quote, lead nowhere. Now, I don't understand what kind of a negotiation, maybe that's some sort of tactic by the Iranians to sound tough and be tough and, get the best deal possible. But it's got to make countries like Israel and Saudi Arabia very, very nervous. Inflation is a big story. Of course, if you look at the federal, the numbers by the federal government, you don't have much inflation. But inflation is getting bad. At least food inflation is getting bad when companies like CBS, mainstream media companies, are reporting inflation in food anywhere between around 16 to 23%, depending on whether it's chicken, beef, or bacon, pork. Meanwhile, incomes are stagnant. And then if you take a look at some of the housing start numbers, they didn't do well last week. They plunged, as a matter of fact. We also had Carl Denninger on talking about the retail sales numbers. The widely reported number was down 0.4% in January. And then if you take a look at December, that was also revised down. But Carl Denninger says, oh, no, not 0.4%. Almost double digits they were down if you compare December, January of 12 and 13 to December, January of 13 and 14, down almost double digits retail sales numbers. And just to tell you that the economy, again, they keep telling us there's some sort of recovery. There hasn't been a recovery, and what recovery we have, you have to understand it's been against a backdrop of massive Fed money printing. I mean, we're down to, $65 billion a month? Which is $780 billion a year. I mean, everybody was up in arms for the $700 billion TARP fund. Well, that's $80 billion more than that. And things are not really going well. Not going well at all. On top of that, if you take a look at the money we're spending, you have, stories like this. This is a reprint Washington Post, and this is this guy. Here, let me get you here. Dana Milbank. Dana Milbank writes this story about how people like, Ted Cruz here and Rand Paul are, basically just an ego trip talking about, anybody that wants to curtail this massive money spending. We just had a debt increase limit, but we didn't have an increase. We had a suspension of the debt ceiling. It's suspended, as in they can spend all they want. And anybody that talks about, hey, we're in deep financial trouble, we're at 0.4 trillion, just a cash deficit, we're packing on $5 to $7 trillion a year. And anybody that says anything about, totally oh, sorry, I hit my mic. Totally, basically undercutting and minimizing, anybody that has any kind of, what do you call it, a say or any kind of a concern about this massive money printing, and, oh, it's an ego trip. We have to tamp that down. Anybody talking about this, well, we could default on our debt. Well, what happens if our dollar goes poof and we pay people back in candy wrappers and toilet paper? Aren't you worried about that? You should be. I'm here in Missouri, and I have to tell you that, things are plush. Eastern half of the United States, 2/3 of the United States, has pretty good water, if no drought, a slight drought. The West, the Rocky Mountains, and particularly California, is trouble. Big trouble. California, they've gotten a little rain recently, but here's just a picture from a few weeks ago, and this is like a place where, there's a place where there's like a dock or a place to overlook the water, and there's no water. And they're having major problems with droughts out in California, and a very large percentage of the world's food, not just the food here in the U.S., but a large percentage of fruits and vegetables and you name it come from California. And nearly in the middle of the growing region, they're having major droughts in California. I mean, stuff that hasn't been around for 100 years. And that is something to keep an eye on. I can't imagine that not filtering down into increasing that food inflation that we've seen in cattle and in pork and poultry. That is going to increase in severity in terms of what you're going to be spending at the grocery store. And finally, it just so seems like the last 3 weeks, every week I've been bringing up a story about J.P. Morgan, and now J.P. Morgan, the bank, and now there is a new lawsuit that alleges that senior officials and at the bank knew about Bernie Madoff's fraud. They knew about it, and Jamie Dimon and 12 other executives have been named in a new lawsuit that says you guys knew about it. You didn't just discover it. You knew about it for a long time, and executives, including the CEO, Jamie Dimon, are being sued. What do the Greeks say? Character is fate. Well, that's the way I see it. I'm coming to you from a farm in Missouri. Very windy out here. Lots of water. The temperature went from 20 degrees and teens at night. Today it hit 70 degrees. Wacky, crazy weather. But thank you so much for watching USA Watchdog and supporting the site with your comments. Thank you so much for using the donations button. I'm Greg Hunter. Have a nice weekend.